Hey, welcome to this Facebook Live. I am Shalini Joshi Yamdagni, and this is my weekly Facebook Live. Our topic today is Drop Judgments and Discover Wellbeing. Drop Judgments and Discover Wellbeing. So if you're new here, if we have never met, I'm Shalini Joshi Yamdagni, and I'm an international physical and emotional pain relief expert and a best-selling author, and I help people who are feeling stuck in pain, emotional, physical pain, break free from their pain and experience peace and clarity quickly. Hi, Neera Didi. So nice to see you here. Thank you for joining. And if you're watching live, come and say hello. If you are watching on replay, do let me know you were here. And today's topic is Drop Judgments and Discover Well-being and opportunities. So, we all do this, right? We all judge all the time. Now, I'm not talking about, the judgment. Judgment is a good thing too, right? I mean, right now we are in the process of finalizing the universities for my kids, and we have to have good judgment, what's going to be the best and where is the child going to feel most comfortable. So of course there is, you need to have good judgment too. I'm not talking about judging fire is not a good thing and the basics, right? I'm talking about the judgment that we have that creates bias and inflexibility, and then keeps us stuck in different ways, right? So so the reason I'm doing this topic is because I'm a part of a mentoring program with Dr. Joe Vitale and Alex Mendozian, and we had an exercise to do, which was just for a week, have no judgment. And it was such an amazing week because I realized, oh my God, we are judging all the time. You go to a grocery store, you're judging the cashier who's really slow, or the people standing in the line, or this person who's got like so many things in their trolley and you just have like a bunch of things. I go to a ATM and there was this guy who took forever to withdraw money, and I'm thinking, gosh, like how much is he going to withdraw? How long is he going to take? What the heck? Does he know how to use the ATM properly? And one of the things that I did want to share with you is this specific experience that I had last Sunday, which I called, so this is what we're covering today, right? Today I'm telling you about the hospital story next. And we're going to look at good thing, bad thing, who knows? We're going to look at why release judgments and tips to release judgments. And then I have a little exercise for you. Okay, so let's get on with the hospital story. So going on with that we are always judging. So I have not been to a hospital in maybe like 10 years. No, I have been to a hospital about 5 years ago for the same purpose that I went this time last Sunday, and that was just to do I'm turning 50 this year. I know, 50. And so I went to do a regular health checkup, right? Like all the women things, pap smear test, the mammogram, the bone density, and all kinds of different tests. And so I'm going to the hospital. And my husband went with me, and so as I went to the hospital, because we had to do all these different tests, you're going from one department to another department, and so you're crossing different other departments in the hospital. And as I was passing, I had this smirk on my face, right? Oh, here's the knee department. Oh, here's the spine department. Oh, here's the ears, nose, throat department, and here's and I was just judging everything, because I thought, oh my God, the medical system like sees us as different body parts. They don't see the person as a whole, and all kinds of judgments were coming up, which I was very aware of because I'm doing this exercise for my for my program, right? Trying to be non-judgmental, and I was amused at how many judgments were coming up. I also went to the bone, department, and then they said, oh, you should, you don't need to go to the spine, but you need to go to the sports section. And so we went to the sports section because I have some a little issue with the shoulder joint, and we were going to check the bone density and stuff like that. And so I went to the doctor, and he moved my left arm around and moved it in different places, and I was very curious. So I said, what do you think is the cause of this slight there's like a little, I don't know, it feels like something's off in the left shoulder. And he says, oh, and we're the sports department, sports injuries, I don't play sports, and he says, oh, because it's wear and tear because of overuse of the left shoulder, of the left hand, right? And I again have all these judgments coming up about this doctor. It's like, excuse me, I'm a right-hander. How the heck did I overuse my left shoulder? I carry my bag on my right shoulder. So I had all these judgments coming up with this one hospital visit. And I had to tell myself, okay, Shalini, just for this day, just release all the judgments and see the intention behind what he's trying to say. Like, he is doing his best, and go to the intention. He's trying to figure it out. He's trying to help you, right? And so what if you can just release and stop these judgments? Because he is there to help people, right? And so I had to really become aware and mindful of what I was doing. And then I went to the pap smear and the bone density. And I was becoming more and more appreciative of the hospital, because how the heck will I ever know, what's going on inside of me if I didn't have all these tests? So it was just unbelievable how one simple hospital visit brought up so much judgment. And I'm just inviting you to be mindful as you go through the day. What are you judging? Who are you judging? Maybe it's people in your family. Maybe it's the routine. Maybe it's I don't know, all kinds of things. As soon as you wake up and you step up and you read the paper and you get out and you use the metro, or you use the transport, and you get into the car, like, we have so many nonstop judgments, it's not even funny. Now, who's to say what's a good thing or a bad thing, right? So the second point is good thing or bad thing. Now here's a Zen story, right? It's a Zen story about a guy, about a farmer in a village, and he had a son and a horse. So the villagers in the village used to come to the farmer and say, you're so lucky, you have a young son to help you, you have a horse. They didn't have horses, so they said, you're such a lucky guy, and so on and so forth. And he said, if it's a good thing or a bad thing, who knows? So one day the horse ran away without, he's not there the next day. And the villagers found out, and they come to him and they said, oh my God, this is such a bad thing. Your horse is gone and you don't have that extra help anymore. What are you going to do? This is not good. And the farmer simply said, good thing or bad thing, who knows? Right? The next day, a couple of days later, I don't even know the exact story, but the horse comes back with a bunch of other horses. And the villagers are so shocked and surprised, and they said, oh my God, you are such a lucky man. Your horse came back and got other horses with you, and now you have all this, support and help. And the farmer said, it's a good thing or is it a bad thing? Who knows? A few days later, the young son is training one of the wild horses, taming him, and the horse pushes him back, and the guy falls and breaks his leg. And again, the villagers come and they say, oh my God, this is such a bad thing, your only son, and now he's going to be, he can't help you. What a bad thing. And the farmer says, good thing, bad thing, who knows, right? A few days later, the army men come and they are recruiting all the young adults in the village. And the farmer's son doesn't get to go because his leg is broken. He's not useful. And so the other villagers, their sons get recruited and they come and say, hey, you're so lucky. Your son had a broken leg and he didn't go. And now you have your son, right? And he says, good thing, bad thing, who knows? Now, the whole point of this story is we are always judging everything, right? And who knows if it's really a good thing or a bad thing. So I'm looking here at a few things that I wrote down. So good thing, bad thing, who knows? I was stuck in chronic pain like 12 years ago now. Wow. And I was cursing my pain. I thought the pain was my worst enemy. I couldn't be a regular mom to my kids. I couldn't take my kids to school. I had to quit my job and be on bed rest. Nothing was working for me. And I said, the pain is the enemy. It's the worst thing. It's I was so mad. And I thought the pain was such a bad thing that happened. But was it a good thing or a bad thing, right? On hindsight, the pain was simply a way that my body was reaching out to me and letting me know that something wasn't working, something was off balance, something needed to change. I needed to do something different, but I wasn't really getting that message. I was just, feeling helpless and like a victim and like poor me. And so pain was a really bad thing for me. But was it a really bad thing? I wouldn't be sitting here in front of you talking right now if it wasn't for that pain. And then I realized the deeper underlying message of the pain. And once my efforts, I directed my efforts in the right direction, I was free of my pain. So was pain a good thing or a bad thing? It's like sometimes, we need a wake-up call. Right? If there's fire in the house and in the building and the alarm doesn't go off, you're going to die, right? And so sometimes these symptoms, these aches and pains in our body are like the alarm system that go off. And if you don't hear it, it keeps getting louder and louder and louder. So is it a good thing or a bad thing? Really? I mean, similarly, we are intrinsically inclined to say that pain is a bad thing, challenges is a bad thing, disease is a bad thing, right? And so most, anything that has, if you look at all the people who are successful in their lives, they've gone through different challenges, they've learned certain things through those challenges, they become stronger, they become, more solid. And so is challenge a good thing? If you're not challenged, right, then you don't grow. And so are challenges bad? Is peace and calm a good thing? Is peace and calm a good thing? Right? I know so many stories where people stay peaceful and calm and don't say a word. They're the good girls of the family. They don't want to create problems. They keep their feelings and their voice, and they're not allowed to express, and they don't want to express because they'll disturb the peace and calm. But is that a really good thing, right? Is peace and calm always a good thing? I'm just thinking of the French Revolution, right? If people had just stayed peaceful and calm, we wouldn't have had the results that we had through the French Revolution. So is peace and calm always a good thing? Right? It's you need to go beyond. So is chaos a bad thing? Like, we know that this planet is a result of all the chaos, right, in the cosmos. And so we have, we tend to quickly judge, quickly label, quickly see things as good, bad, right, wrong, without really allowing ourselves the opportunity to go beyond and see what else might be there, right? And so, good thing or bad thing, I don't know what you're going through in your life right now, but if you tend to question it and ask yourself, is this a really bad thing? Or is there something that I need to learn? What am I here to? What is this experience? What is this message? What is this symptom? What is this disease telling me about myself that I need to know and I need to understand, right? So why release judgments? Why do we want to release those judgments? Is because whatever you resist persists. Now, whenever, for example, if you're in an office situation and you said, mean boss, mean boss, mean boss, mean boss, right? So you have this judgment because of whatever experience you had, and you keep saying this is a mean boss. But the more you keep doing it, the more you keep, every time this thing shows up, you have this tension inside you, right? And it just gets bigger and bigger and bigger because now it's in your belief system. It's like an automatic thing. The boss shows up and you have this fear and anger and resentment. And guess what? Whatever you fear, whatever you resist, it continues to exist in your life. So that's one of the reasons why you want to release judgments. And also, judgments block opportunities. 12 years ago, when I was in physical pain and I had costochondritis, I had a disease, and there was this guy, the host of the seminar that I had attended, and he was saying, all your disease is from your thoughts. I wanted to punch him, right? I said, excuse me, like, I've created my disease. I've created this problem for myself. How the heck? So I had a lot of judgment about what he was saying. And if I had not been open-minded, and if I had not, been open to what he was trying to say, I would not have stayed in that seminar. I would have walked out like, this guy is full of crap. And I would not have had the opportunity as I did. At the end of the seminar, I went to him and I said, hey, I'm in so much pain. What do you suggest I do? And he said, why don't you try EFT? I don't know what it was. He didn't really know what it was, but he had heard about it. And thanks to him telling me about EFT, I went to the website, I Googled it, I found the information there, I downloaded the manual, I ordered their DVDs, I saw results even in the first time that I tried it, and eventually I was free of my chronic pain and disease, where months and months of doctor visits and hospital visits and all kinds of treatments hadn't helped. So why release judgments? Because they block opportunities and possibilities for success, for healing. And relationships are also mirrors. So if you're constantly judging someone, you're irresponsible, you're irresponsible, you're irresponsible, right? You know what they say? That when you do the pointing fingers at others, the rest of the fingers are pointing at you, right? And so the other thing, is that's popular is if you spot it, you got it. So if you're constantly saying to someone about a certain area, maybe they're being irresponsible, then you have it too somewhere. Maybe not in that area, but maybe in some other area of your life, you're being irresponsible. There was a time when I was constantly pointing fingers at my son and saying, why are you being so irresponsible? You're forgetting this and you're forgetting that and you don't tidy up and blah, blah. And I realized that there was an area in my life that I was being irresponsible, and that was food. I had dumped all the cooking to someone else. I have a house help, and I felt guilty and irresponsible as a mother that I wasn't taking good care, and I was just, eating whatever was fed, and sometimes it was way too oily, and sometimes it wasn't cooked well, and I felt like an irresponsible. So I was feeling irresponsible, but you have to dig a little bit deeper when you're pointing fingers at others, because remember, if you spot it, you've got it. So that's another reason, right, to release judgments, because when you're judging people, it's the world mirroring back to you something that you also have in some area of your life. Maybe not in work, maybe not in, in the area that you're seeing that person. I wasn't like throwing my towel on the floor, and I wasn't, keeping my stuff irresponsibly, but I was being irresponsible in a completely different area of my life. So that's another reason why you want to release judgments. Blocked energy creates dis-ease. When you're constantly judging other people, right? What accompanies judgments are feelings. Feeling resentful, feeling angry, feeling pissed, feeling upset. So if you're constantly judging your job, I hate it, I absolutely despise going to this job, and that may be very valid, but the more you have this judgment and resistance, then you also have all these feelings that create dis-ease inside of you. And I know that because I hated my job 12 years ago. I hated going there. I hated, the kind of work that I was doing, and it created so much dis-ease inside. I had a disease, and I was in pain, and I had to quit my job and be on bed rest. So a lot of judgments, continuous judgments, create a lot of dis-ease within, which eventually create disease and pain. It's another key reason why you want to release judgments. And also, releasing judgments because of contextual behavior. So I wrote, contextual behavior is not a person's identity. And what I mean by that is, so let me give you an example. About 5 years ago, my family here in Bangkok, the extended family, grandparents and aunt and uncle, and all of us were going for a trip to the US. And, we had applied for this Canadian visa almost a month. And it was like 2 days or 3 days left for the flight. And we still didn't have the visa from the Canadian embassy here. Right. So I went with my kids because we had to go there. It was an urgent thing. My agent said, you have to go there and you have to, request them to hurry up the application because it had been a month. And I went there, and this lady was, saying, no, it still needs so much time. And I was like, we've been waiting for a month. My flight is day after. I need this visa now. We had booked hotels in Canada. And so she wasn't having none of it. And so I got really pissed, right? And my kids were sitting there seeing me get angry and shout, and there were other people sitting in the waiting area, and I was being loud, and I was like, no, and this is not done, and blah, blah, blah. And my kids were totally embarrassed, like, why is she being so loud? Why is she shouting? Everybody's listening. And so if you had to judge, if you saw me and if you were in that room, you would say, oh my God, what a rude person, what a loud person, what a problem creator, right? And we've all been there, right? So sometimes when you look at someone being a certain way and you judge them and you say, this is who they are, you've been there too, right? You've done those things too. So is that who you really are? So is it really fair to judge if it's a good person or a bad person, right? It's all contextual. So I don't know what's going on in your life, whether you're, in a bad relationship or with a bad boss or have a health issue. What if you could, pull away from this hardcore judgment and have a more curious kind of, instead of a judgmental, have a more curious questioning thing. Like, if you were to see somebody being rude, you might ask yourself, is she being rude? Is she generally rude, right? And of course not, because you've been rude too. You've been judgmental. You've been, we've all been all those different things that we see in other people, right? So that's just why you want to release all different judgments, right? What you judge, what you resist, persist. You block opportunities. Relationships are mirrors, so they're telling you something about yourself too. And all that dis-ease creates disease. And then, of course, things are contextual. Not everybody is all bad, right? So give it a break. Now, how do we release? Tips to release judgments is, number one, I mean, it's not in any order and it's not the only way, but here are some tips: is observe, not absorb, right? If somebody is saying something to you, if you are being judged, instead of you're judging someone, you are being judged. What if you could observe what the person is saying instead of absorbing it and taking it to heart, and like their judgment of me is the absolute truth and this is the way it is? What if you could observe it like you're observing some clouds and like they pass by, right? So not taking it in and believing it to be true, and you know, because when somebody judges you, it's their perspective of something that's happening right now, and it's not the absolute truth. So observe, don't absorb. And here's a tool that I learned from Access Consciousness, which is another modality, and they teach you, like, whenever you are judging or you are being judged, you can say, interesting point of view. So if somebody is saying something rude to you or somebody's accusing you of something, right? You can, again, observe and not absorb and say, that's an interesting point of view, right? Or you can do that with yourself too. If you are judging someone, you can say, that's an interesting point of view. And the other sentence, which is part of the same thing, is, I have this point of view. So if I'm at the hospital and some judgments are coming up, and I can, instead of judging, and I can say, this is an interesting point of view that I have. And I have this point of view. That's not who I am, right? That's not what the hospital is, but I have this point of view and I can let it go, right? And so another way is to, here's another thing that I learned from Access Consciousness. They say you can pull down the wall. You don't have to, instead of pushing against it. So when somebody is accusing you or judging you, right? Instead of putting a barrier, right? Instead of putting a barrier and pushing against it, what if you could just drop the wall and allow them to say whatever, and just let this energy pass, right? Just let this energy just pass by you. Again, it's a little similar to observe. And so what happens is when you don't react, to the situation, and you just kind of allow this person to say whatever, the intensity tends to come down, because usually they would get pushback. Usually they would get like resistance, right? But you didn't resist. And so the whole intensity of whatever the situation is, it just calms down and it settles down and it moves past you without dirtying you or polluting you, right? And so how to release judgments is observe, don't absorb, right? Say to yourself, interesting point of view. If somebody says, you're so rude, you can say, that's an interesting point of view that they have, right? Because maybe you don't see yourself as a rude person, and just because they're saying it doesn't mean it's true. Just because I was judging the hospital as bad, and they're just, they see the person as, broken into different parts of their bodies, that doesn't mean a hospital is a bad thing, is it? Very quickly I was reminded of, my nephew went through a massive operation when he was just born, and if it wasn't for the hospital, he wouldn't be here today. So why was I judging? Why are we judging people? Is because we've had experiences in the past that is coloring our judgment of what we are seeing today. So when I was going into the hospital, as I was telling you earlier in the story, is I had the experience of not getting the relief that I wanted, being shunted from one department to another, and different kind of medications, different kind of treatments, and nothing helped me, which colored my judgment of a hospital visit this time. And I had all these negative judgments that were coming up because of my experience. So when somebody's judging you, or when you are judging someone, be mindful that the reason you have this bias, this negative bias, or this inflexible view is that somewhere you had an experience, or maybe you didn't even have an experience. Maybe you got it from society. Maybe you got it from your culture, that this is a bad thing, right? And maybe you got it from your family. Like, this is good, this is bad, right? We have so many judgments. And so be mindful and say, interesting point of view. Why do I have this point of view? And go and do a deeper search instead of just seeing things at face value. So I hope this was helpful. Dropping judgments and discovering well-being and opportunities. So what I want you to do is, do this exercise. Think of a situation, current situation or recent situation where you were judged or you were judging someone, right? Where you were judged and you were judging someone, and use, these different things, these different tools about observing and not absorbing, interesting point of view, and pulling down the walls and just seeing things as they are, and also going deeper. Like, if you're judging someone, allow yourself to go deeper and say, why do I have this point of view? Interestingly, I have this point of view about this situation, about this disease, about this person. And why do I have this point of view? And so when you are willing to go beyond what you see and observe at face value, you will discover stuff about yourself that you didn't know, right? And you will discover possibilities that were not there before you, that show up, that completely change and transform the way you see things, the way you behave with this person, the way you, the way you move forward, right? So it will completely change, and you will begin to be more mindful as you move forward. Because frankly, judgment, as we go through this life, we do judge nonstop. But as you become more mindful of these judgments and become more curious and become more reflective and see, what is this telling me about myself? What is this bringing up for me? Then we can begin to live our lives from a more curious, like that childlike curiosity, and not being so judgmental, right? And being open to what might be out there that might completely support us, help us, bring the solutions that we are looking for, and change our lives. So thank you so much for joining me. I hope you got something out of it, and I will see you next week again at the same time on Thursday. Till then, try the judgment exercise and see what comes up for you and what discoveries you make and how that changes and helps you. Bye, guys. It was wonderful having you here, and I'll see you next week.